Welcome, Planeswalkers, to another episode of The Hive Mind. I'm your host, John, and this is the show where we traverse the multiverse in search of other prominent members in the Magic the Gathering community. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this episode of The Hive Mind, I get to fanboy out a little bit because I am talking to one of the founding members, in my opinion, of Magic Gathering content on YouTube and in general everything from finance, deck building, deck techs, everything like that. This was the channel that pretty much made me want to become a Magic the Gathering content creator. So, without further ado, planes walking in from Pennsylvania, I have Nick from Absolute MTG. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
Dude, that's really flattering. That's see, we had some we had interaction on Twitter, but that's really flattering, man. That means a lot. That's real cool. Yeah, I'm really glad to be here. This is a really cool opportunity. Like I was saying earlier, I never really did interviews, like live interviews or anything like that with the community, so it's definitely cool to take a nice little second to do that. So, and
Oh,
I'm real excited to be here. Honestly, this is cool.
awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, seriously, Nick, I've, I'm not like, oh, tooting my own horn. I've had a lot of, people on the show, but like, I remember back in like, I think it was 2011. I just got back into Magic. Everyone kind of, sells off their collection, then kind of jumps back in. It's an addiction that we can't get away from, right? It's like,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
I was just like, oh, I'm going to build some standard decks or whatever. I was drafting, I think, Innistrad, Return to Ravnica. And I'm just like, I'm going to kind of look and see what's out there in this. And I found your channel. And I remember one of my favorite videos that you did was opening a pack of RTR. And you opened up, like, I think a Jace, and then you pulled a foil Vraska. You lost your shit. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Oh man, I got so many people to comment on that and say that it was fake. It
Was
was
not fake.
that was one of the craziest things because that was like the first time I think whenever I was doing openings that I pulled something like insane like that, and everybody was just like, "Nah, it's absolutely rigged." I'm just like, "Listen, man, I'm just trying to have a good time here. Like, what,
Right.
like, why would I rig this? Like, I could do better stuff than that if I wanted to rig it, to be honest." But
Right. Well, I mean, at the time, that was the Cat's Pajamas. So, like, as we do in each and every episode of the Hive Mind, I like to start out by asking you, sir, what was your Magic origin story?
Magic origin story. All right, so uh, I always like casually approached Magic. Like, I played since it was like Dark Steel whenever I got interested in it. Like a bunch of other kids in school were interested in it, and it was really like come and go casual. Around I think it was like late Alara, late Alara, like, and then going into like Scars, I got more interested in it. Uh, and there wasn't really anybody around that was actually really interested so much in Magic to sit down and like play it with me. So I was like, well, listen, man, this is cool. Like, there's got to be something on the internet going on that I can like delve into. And awkwardly enough, I saw people were doing like they were doing trading, and they were making like these binder videos, and they were just like they had the community wasn't big. It was like I think the biggest channel was maybe 800 subscribers or something like that. Like it wasn't very big, and that's like outside of like Mr. Orange and like Star City, which was like just new and up and coming at the time. Um, but I remember seeing Drowned God and his videos. That is definitely what got me into it. Definitely the inspiration. That was the focal point for me. I was like, this guy knows what he's doing. Like this guy has the business run down. And I think that was the first trade that I did with him. Was I swapped him. What was it? A Wormcoil Engine. That was like one of the biggest mythics I had at the time, and they were I think $25 at the time. So I swapped it for like a bunch of dollar rares. And I was like the happiest kid. I was I was just out of my mind. I was like, this is the coolest thing. Like I have these people online that I can just like trade with. And then it went from there, man. Like it was all uphill from there, just fuel for the fire.
Absolutely, and that was kind of the genesis of like Magic Gathering content back then, right? It was literally just kind of trade binder trading, and I think you and I discussed Drown God on our back and forth on Twitter, and I was just like, oh yeah, I totally remember that guy, and that was like he had an intro, right? Like
Yeah.
he was hot stuff.
Yeah, dude, Drown God was nuts. Well, like back then, he was the biggest thing that existed, and like the community just like it basically wasn't even a thing. Well, not compared to now. Now it's like booming. It's absolutely insane looking at it. But no, that guy was the real deal. He was a really nice dude too. I remember he talked to me like really late after he like got out. It was like a year or two after he got out, and he was like, "Listen, man, I remember doing interactions with you. Like, this is crazy. Like, you're making content like regularly." I was like, "Yeah, man, it's weird. It's weird where you get to."
Yeah, I mean this was before, your professors, your wedges and all that. And it's just like that it was a completely different thing back then. But I mean, you kind of broke the ground with doing these deck techs, and going back on my old videos for deck techs and whatnot. It's like I never wanted to do any of just the flash digital on screen. I love the way you actually had like a tactile feel to your deck techs, where you kind of rolled them out, you kind of slow rolled everything, and you spread it all out for everything. So I mean, that was great, and not even really replicated to this day.
Yeah, I think it was so. It's really funny when you look back and you look at like your early content and you just kind of like critique it. You're just like looking through and you're like, well, this sucked. Like there's got to be a better way that like I can do this. Like there's just issues that you see like and it could be week to week, and then like in the late stages of me making content, it was like week to week where I wanted to like improve stuff. But definitely like the old school deck decks were those were like goofy to me because like you said, like everything was laid out and it feels so archaic because like you're just panning over things, and it's such a like middle school way of like making content, but it worked. Like it worked. You got the message across, and it had like an aesthetic feel to it where it felt the fact that it was less produced, it made it like feel better. It made it feel more like personal, which I think was one of the biggest things that like actually stuck, because anybody could like take images off the internet. Like anybody could like rip the JPEGs off and like just plaster them on top if they knew like what they were doing with any sort of like video editing. But I mean, as far as deck techs go, that was like one of the first iterations of it. Like that was people really didn't have much of like a hand for what was going on, and I definitely myself including, because I mean that's all I knew at that point in time.
Well, here's the thing. It also made you come across more invested in the game and more knowledgeable, even to this day, because like you said, anyone could throw up a JPEG and just be like, here's a deck, and you could literally at this point in time pull any kind of net deck off of the internet and put it on your channel like it's your own. But someone like you that actually had the cards and that were putting them out, it made me, at least myself, trust you more, because you actually invested at least the money into these cards, so you probably invested the time as well.
Oh, for sure. I actually never even thought about that. That's good. That's definitely good. I never thought about like that dimension to it, but that's definitely it. It's far more personal whenever you see somebody that like actually has their hand in it, rather than somebody that's just digitally manifesting everything and just like standing on a green screen and like everything is just there. Like anybody can do that well enough. Like it's easy to replicate. But yeah, definitely I never thought about that. It's very, very noteworthy.
Thank you. All right. Well, and thank you. I just want to call out to the chat real quick. I keep forgetting that we've now gone to a live show. So I just want to thank Jaden Martin and my boy Zuby from Magic with Zuby. They're in the chat. So hanging out. You laugh. I think maybe Jaden Martin or something.
Yeah. Yeah, he's memeing me right now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We were talking in Discord previous this, so
Hey.
he said he was like, I'm gonna bomb this thing, and I'm just gonna ask ridiculous things on live air. And I was,
well, I appreciate him being a new subscriber, so at least he did that.
It works out, man. It just works.
So what's up, Jaden Martin and my boy Zoobs. But yeah, going back to it, you definitely, if you go with the whole Magic, I even forgot what they're called, but the Johnny, Timmy, Spike kind of thing, you definitely came across as a more competitive person in your videos. Definitely Spiky Decks, Junk Reanimator, and I mean your videos like helped me through what I kind of viewed as the Magic's like golden ages. And I'm an old dog. I've been around since Ice Age, but my favorite format, especially standard format, was Return to Ravnica and Innistrad and all that. I loved, the Junk Reanimators. Did you qualify? Did you identify with kind of the Spike?
So early into the content, it was more fake it to make it. I was so bad, like in the early days playing it. Like anybody can pick up like a tier 1 like net deck, but to be good at it, like you have to put the time into it, like obviously. But a lot of it was kind of like faking it early in, and then I like actually built steam into like playing competitively and like actually know what I was doing. So I definitely think it now fits. At the very early stage, probably not. It was more like imitation than it was like actually being good at the game. Subjectively, I guess. I mean, but either way.
Hey, fair. I mean, at least you were coming across as genuine, and like I said, even with you couldn't fake that reaction when you cracked the Jace and foil Vraska. So I mean, you were into it, man. Like for sure, you came off as genuine.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing is genuine reactions with YouTube content, especially.
So let's talk about YouTube content a little bit, especially back then, we discussed that it kind of evolved from trade binders and this, that, and the other thing. You said you didn't really get involved a lot with interviews and stuff, but did you get involved with the community back then that you remember?
It was really huge with, like largely with the trading. I was really like hands-on with other people. The more I started bridging into like deck techs and stuff like that, I didn't really like dip very much into like other stuff. Like I've collabed with Wedge a fair bit, but outside of that, like I think there was MTG headquarters where we tried something and then there was a huge falling out.
Sure.
Which everybody probably remembers.
Hey, that's a really current.
Oh, I know. Real interesting. But I was more hands-on back whenever I was in the early stages than the later stages, which is regrettable. I should have paid closer attention while I was more invested in it. But even so, it wasn't like I was secluding myself. It wasn't like a complete isolation. Like I still interacted with people, like as far as like the comments and whatnot went. I was still paying attention to like what people were saying, feedback and whatnot. A lot of people don't know like the finer machinations in what was going on. Like I had like focus groups. I had like secluded pages where I was getting input from like the viewers and whatnot. And it was very small and isolated, but to a degree I was like taking feedback from people in like demographics that I thought were important. So it was kind of picky choosy, but I still wanted to have interaction with people at the end of the day.
Sure. And you mentioned like before what content was now and what content is, or what content was then, what content is now. Can like, what do you think? What do you think about just the growth and the boom of just MTG content and the evolution?
I mean, it's insane. Like the production quality got like really, really good. Like it's actually just terrifying how good it got. It's like it's just the evolution of YouTube in general, where you look at videos like the early 2000s and the way like you could record something on like your phone and it could just be viral. And now you have this like master production quality content that is just the absolute like bar for what you should be doing if you want watchable content. And I feel like it's discouraging to like people that want to enter in and like make a living with it. They want to be successful with it. But at the same time, it pushes people to actually be good at something, even if you're just benchmarking. Like past the point of benchmarking, it actually pushes you to be invested in what you're doing, which I think is good. I think that's really good.
Absolutely. It's kind of a, lack of a better term, kind of a scrub checker, but you know,
Oh yeah.
you
Yeah.
never, yeah, you never know. I mean, there's a lot of diamond in the roughs and all that, but, just talk about, more, a little bit going back into just the cards themselves. What was your favorite format while you were like super active into the game?
Um, the point where I cared the most. So there's a lot of formats. There's like a lot of standard formats I really enjoyed. Like you said, like RTR format was really, really good. Innistrad format was also really, really good. Like playing with like Lillian snaps in standard was just insane. At the peak of like enjoying playing standard, I think it was probably like Dark Ascension format where I was playing like Solar Flare. But even still, I want to say like Kaladesh format was like the best. Like that was the peak of like my competitive playing and like having a dedicated team where I play tested. We went and like grinded PPTQs, RPTQs, stuff like that. Like that's probably like that's like my golden time whenever I was playing. Obviously, I wasn't making like content at that point in time because I was focusing on actually playing the game. But like give and take, I think Dark Ascension and Kaladesh format definitely.
Okay. And, going back a little bit, I mean, there was a point where, you mentioned Mr. Orange, which is, Evan Irwin, Magic Show. Definitely he was around at that time. But I mean, you were pretty much, if not the top, you were at the top of the Magic the Gathering content creation. You were pretty much one, maybe two at the very least. Just tell me how you felt about that, and then what went into your decision to kind of go away, from this game.
So I think at peak, whenever I was the biggest channel, it was 10K. It was like 10K or 12K, something like that. And it was right whenever like the From the Vaults were like getting big again and they're remarketing them, pushing them again. It was like a really cool feeling. It was a huge push where you were constantly getting all these subscribers every day. You had this influx of people commenting and whatnot, and it was a push to make content every single day. Like this was past like the I need filler content. I need to be opening packs every day. I need to be doing like this garbage. So content is content. Like this was the I want to be doing gameplay. I want to be doing deck techs. I want to be competing, playing, and like it felt really good. It was a good time to like be making content and whatnot. Moving away, other people like got invested, got really good at it, got involved in it. Your professors, your wedges, like they got into it. I can't remember what point they surpassed me. I think it was like when I hit 50K, they boomed and like went up to like 70, 80. And then I plateaued at like 80K. And they just like kept getting bigger. But like all the way through, it was a joyride, man. Like it's really weird. It's a really weird feeling making content, having people watch it, and getting positive vibes out of it, and a lot of them too. Like that's insane. Like you can't explain it. It's just weird.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been doing this for a little over a year now, and I freak out when I see my videos get like 20 views. I'm like, 20 people give a shit about what I'm saying? Like, that's bizarre. So yeah, it is a roller coaster. It is a definite roller coaster ride. Are you still playing Magic to this day, Nick?
No, so it was right before the last Modern Masters came out. So what was it, like Modern Masters 17? So I sold all of my stuff off except for my RPTQ cards, and I just kind of drop shipped. So like the game seemed to like decline. It's hard to describe because like it's not that the game wasn't fun. It's like the game was just getting like more and more stale with the way it was being approached. And like shortly after, I saw like how many bans like took in effect, which it's not like it was intentional. There was like the weird like Venn diagram of like things we wanted to have happen, things that shouldn't happen, and then there was like the mix in the middle where they're like, well, we didn't really plan on the format being the way we wanted it to. We changed it and then we changed it back, and well, stuff is still here, so we have to make some changes. But I think getting out of the game and then seeing like ban list after ban list after ban list, it was like, well, probably wasn't the worst idea to just kind of like let up with it. But now I honestly have to say I really don't have too much interest in trying to get back with it. So the segue away from that is that I've been playing Hearthstone and Eternal more, which Eternal, for those people that aren't familiar with it, LSV, Patrick Chapin, Connolly Woods are all on the dev team for, and it's basically Magic. So indirectly, I'm still playing Magic. Directly, I'm not playing Magic. So
yeah, and so and as far as content creation goes, and you know, at least I know because I follow you, but it looks like you Absolute MTG is still up, but it looks like you're gearing more towards Twitch and doing some more of these kind of streaming of these other games, right?
Correct. Yeah, very, very sparingly here and there. It's more of like a casual thing. If like anybody that's followed me in the past cares about these games, wants to see me like on live stream, and also wants to interact, you can. If not, like, doesn't really matter. I'm not in it for views, followers, or anything like that. It's more just leisurely on the side.
It's heartbreaking for me.
It's sad, man. Like it's like it's honestly like giving up a really, really good job and then just kind of being like, well, I mean, we're on to different things now. Like, it was a good time, but I mean, you can't keep some things going for forever. Like, sometimes you just lose a little bit of steam and you're just like, well, I mean, on to other stuff.
Sure, and that's totally understandable. And I just want to remind, we do have a pretty active chat right now, and I do want to get to, you know, at the end of the section, like I said before, we usually play a game, but yeah, you know, with an interview like this, I want to kind of give the audience some time to do a little mini Q&A if you guys want to ask any questions for Nick or whatever. But before that, you know, like you said, you're not really too much into the game, but and I just kind of sold my paper collection off very recently as well to get kind of better recording equipment and stuff like that, because, you know, I like doing this style of things. So it's better if you know, see this ugly face clear and hear the stupid voice clear. You know, but there you go. Wizards got, you know, is starting to kind of get me again, tug at my old man heartstrings, and a little set called freaking Dominaria is coming out, and I'm just like, oh God, like, why do you do this to me? Because I mean, honestly, like, I thought the Amonkhet like kind of storyline was cool. I thought they went really dark and you know, I thought it was pretty neat. But then Kaladesh didn't do it for me. You know, Return to Innistrad turned out to be kind of a fart in the wind. So you know, these sets, I completely agree with you. But now, and then of course, you know, Jurassic, you know, Pirate World, I wasn't a big fan of either. But Dominaria, it's not at least intriguing for you a little bit?
It is, but like, I don't know, man. You can't sell me on just that. It's got to be the game too. Like the lore can only take you so far before you're just like, listen, man, you got me. Like you got me hooked. Now you got to drive it home. Like the driving factor, like it just seems like it's gone. And it honestly, it wasn't even me. It was like my group like got out of it too. Like everybody that I had playtesting with me, they just like drop ship at the same time. So it's not even like it's not like, oh yeah, I stopped playing the game, so everybody else is going to. It was like everybody just had a mutual like, well, we might as well just pick a good point. Modern Masters, like we already know that they're going to do stuff. Like we might as well drop ship now. Financially, it was the best thing to do. I mean, like we got out like bandits before literally everything got reprinted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just like Magic the McDonald's at this point. It's just it's Oprah. Everybody gets everything at this point. But man, I mean, coming from and I am gonna miss those booster box battles between you and the crew though. Those were a lot of fun.
Yeah, those were a lot of fun. Those were the good casual days where you got to like enjoy actually making like small content, like just nonsense content, but also like do what you would normally be doing. And unfortunately, like the more like the less content I was making, I was working at a shop, which then turned into like a very big endeavor with like managing, doing PR, like event scheduling, traveling, vending, doing all those things, which like I think very minimally, like people in the Magic community don't know that. People in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, awkwardly enough, absolutely do know that. So the more I got invested with working around it, the less fun card games got, because like everything was just work. So it just kind of like drove away the appeal of like sitting down opening a box. Like when you're opening up like 100 cases, like it takes away all of that like aesthetic feeling for you.
Absolutely. And all right, and just kind of my last question before we go to the comments, just being someone that was kind of at the mountaintop, you know, at the pinnacle of what this was, this one thing you were the number one at. What's your advice for people trying to break in now? I know we kind of talked about it before, but you know, what do you tell these poor bastards at this point?
So the biggest thing is benchmarking. Don't be afraid to benchmark other people. Obviously you can't just take thing for thing and just like repurpose it and make it your own. Like it doesn't really work that way. People will see what you're doing, but don't be afraid to get creative with it and like do this stuff. Even if it sucks, even if you think it sucks, somebody's going to like actually appreciate it. And then from there, you just kind of like string it along. The other thing is don't be too serious about it. Like I feel like people just overly critique themselves and get way too into their own feels if they're just like, well, I put all this time into this and there's like no interaction with it, or there's not the response I wanted to get out of it, so then it must mean that it's bad. Like that's not the way that it works at all. Just don't get in your feels, don't be afraid to benchmark, and stick to the stuff that you actually enjoy doing. Don't push anything that you aren't comfortable with doing, or just because you want like to people please. Don't do that. Don't do that. You just force it. It just looks like shit then. Don't do
that. Absolutely. Yeah. I was just like, you know, and I even went through that, just kind of a smaller channel like myself, where I'm just like, okay, what EDH general do I have to do a deck tech for now? And then I'm just like, you know what? I'm 30 something years old. I just want to talk to people. If people want to watch, people want to watch. And luckily people do. And especially when I have people like you on, because we will jump over to the comment section. Your boy, Jaden Martin, we'll start with one of his comments. Question for Nick. Do you ever see yourself considering creating content for other games such as Eternal or another game in the future?
Yes, definitely. Yes, especially Eternal. Eternal's actually really good. I highly recommend it. They're not doing anything for me. Like if I plug them, I can promise you that there's no paid slots here. The game's actually really good, and it's a good segue for people that actually have played Magic and want something that's digital, which is it's more like for the people that don't want to play Hearthstone because it's a complete rework of like learning these skills and learning how to play a game, but you want something that's on the go but also grindable, because the game's like free to play if you actually put the time into it, which I think is pretty unique. Do I see myself making content for these games? Yeah, I see myself making content for Hearthstone and Eternal. I'm, in my own opinion, good at both of those games. Like I'm like Masters grinding, Legend grinding. Like I think I'm good at those games. Not the best in the world, but I'll give people a run for their money. So like, would I make content? Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's
it's
awesome.
fun.
Anything Conley's behind, I love Conley Woods. He's a friend of mine, and he's a great dude. So yeah, I don't know why it took me so long to check that out, but going back to the comment section, we have Kevin Wheeler. Do you know who Kevin Wheeler is? You seem to know everyone in the comment section.
No, not Kevin
Okay.
Wheeler. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't want to offend anybody, but
Yeah.
like if I knew somebody like 8 years ago and they're like, dude, like I literally knew you. Like, what do you mean? Like the
Right.
betrayal here. Like maybe I know somebody. Like I'm really bad with names. If I saw like a face or something, I might know, but like I don't want to say that I do or don't know anybody. Jaden,
Sure.
I know Jaden. He's a meme lord, but like anybody else, it's real hit and miss.
Nice. Well, Kevin Wheeler did say he was just kind of in agreement, more of a question, or not so much a question, but he said, "I'm a kitchen table warrior. When I hit a big pool, I straight up lose my mess."
Oh hell yeah, that's hell yeah, man.
That was great. And then Zuby said he's offended and he's reporting. Get a job, Zuby. I love it. Yeah, and Zuby said, way too much product being printed. Absolutely, and that's kind of something we talked about. And just kind of a question from me. It's like, what else are you into? You into besides TCGs and stuff like that? Are you into movies, music? I know you were a guitar player, right? You had that going on the channel for a while.
Yeah, I've been playing guitar for 12 years now, something like that.
Nice.
It was like since really early middle school. I just picked up drums like 2.5 years ago, and I'm having a lot more fun with that, honestly, even though I've like put in a lot of time in guitar. Music's really huge. Music's really, really, really cool. Weightlifting too on the side. That's like a new endeavor that I'm enjoying. But yeah, other than that, like just grinding digital card games. Those are fun. Those are a lot of fun right now.
That's awesome. I think so. Now we have the trio. We could start a Magic band now, because you could play the drums. We got Magic Man Sam, who could play the guitar, and I'll be on the bass. And there we go.
Dude, Sam's one hell of a dude. I love Sam. His content is so good. His content is so good. I love his content.
Oh yeah. And just a fantastic dude, like just the nicest person that I've had the pleasure of meeting, and he's been on the show as well, and just great person. But yeah, if there's, let me check the chat one more time, and then I mean seriously, Jane Martin, I was curious too. What exactly does Nick mean by benchmarking?
Oh, benchmarking. So
Yeah.
Benchmarking is a business term. So I went to school for business. I graduated just recently, actually. So benchmarking is a term that you use in business where you look at what other businesses are doing, what other like content creator entities in this case are doing, like their videos, their creative style, the way that they're just kind of implementing things, going about like even just small, minute things like the way that they're recording, angles, lighting. And you're trying to use this as a starting and jumping off point for yourself. So you basically do the research, you look at what works, quote unquote works. And from there, you try to build off of that with your own twist to it, which businesses do all too much. I mean, it's a very common thing that businesses do. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good rundown on benchmarking. Yeah, well, it's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to give credit to Zuby. He was the one that asked it first, and then Jaden Martin said, "Hey, I'm curious too." So okay, Zub, it was your question. But another thing is, you seem to have kind of the same demeanor towards Magic that I kind of feel. If you could wave the Magic, wand, what would you change? Like if you could just kind of do it, what do you think would fix the game at this point?
Oof, that's a really rough question. What would I do to fix it? So playing competitively, I never had too much of a gripe with stuff like going to events. It seems like they made events like really hard to keep up with. Like if you wanted to like pay money to play at GPs and whatnot, that seemed like to me this. I don't want to like come off as like sounding like arrogant and braggy, but like the cost of Magic was never a problem for me. But like to a lot of people, like keeping up with formats, paying GP entries, and I know that those like keep on going up for some reason, like showing up at GPs, playing at side events, and like all this stuff, like to keep up and enjoy a game, like the cost shouldn't be that big. It doesn't feel like it. Like it feels like they overcomplicated things and stripped away the value and like extra feeling you got out of actually going to these places and attending it. And I'm sure people will have some kind of counterpoint to that and just say like, well, if they didn't do that, they wouldn't have events that are big like GP Vegas. You couldn't support these types of things. But even still, man, like there's got to be something you can do to like to make the entry point for players more easy to approach. Like there's got to be something that's going to grab people even outside of just like, all right, well, we push these certain products that'll just get people in the door. Like you got to give people like more incentive to show up at GPs that doesn't like drain their wallet. People are already paying a lot for like hotels and traveling and whatnot. We would pay a lot for a hotel and like we wouldn't really think anything of it because we made a weekend out of it. But like that's a lot for some people, man. Like that's huge. And you can't really keep up with it the whole year.
Absolutely, and inherently, all that stuff is the ancillary stuff. Just the entry level, like you said, is astronomical. Conversely, do you think that's why they're pushing more master sets and now these new challenger decks? If you heard about those,
I haven't heard about the challenger decks.
They're just straight up. They're like event decks, but they're almost like straight out the box standard, tier 1 decks with some key, money pieces missing. It's just like, fine, here's your deck, you babies kind of thing. Which that goes against the reprinting thing though too, right? It's like this fine balance.
The other thing about Magic, man, is it's a monetary investment. That's the problem. Like if you put the money into it, you want some sound sort of like assurance that you're not going to just get completely boned on the value that you put into it. And for a long time, like legacy just kept on going up because of like the buyout inflations and whatnot. And like you can't really do anything about that. But a good counterpoint isn't just reprinting everything to infinity, because people don't have like a good sound reason to just go, I'm going to like dump all this money and buy all this product, buy all these things. Well, it's the same problem that Yu-Gi-Oh has. Like they just reprint everything and like nobody wants to buy anything. If in 6 months it just gets reprinted, what's the point, man? Eventually it'll be worth nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, but it's like you said, it's where's the fun? You buy a new Xbox 360 or 360. Look how old I am. You buy a new Xbox game or PlayStation game or something like that. And yes, now especially with companies like EA and stuff like that, where it's just like they basically sell you an unfinished game now, and you have to buy all this DLC. But it's not still as expensive and ongoing drain on the wallet as something like a TCG is. But there's a reason why I think that Magic is still where it is, and it's still kind of the OG. But there is this bubble that it feels like we've kind of hit, and people are getting a little tired of it. And people like you at the pinnacle where you were just like, okay, I'm kind of done with this, and there's more and more of this kind of mentality, this kind of exodus. So it is sad to see. I always feel like I'll be involved in the game in some way or another, whether it's playing or you know, covering people. But it is strange, and it is I don't want to say it's in a lot of trouble, because it is, like you said, the most popular it's been in a long time. But you do kind of, it's like the writing's on the wall a little bit.
Yeah, for certain. It's they just have to do something about it, honestly. And I'm sure they're gonna figure it out. Like, they're not dumb. Like, they're Hasbro. Like, they're going to figure something out. Like,
they make Monopoly.
Yeah. Like, I just think that you can only do things and like try and push in a certain direction before you just realize, like, shit, maybe we were like kind of going in the wrong direction. But it'll boom again. Like, around Innistrad, you had such a stagnant plateau of people, turnouts, like all these things happening, and then Gothic horror theme. Innistrad comes out. Everything from Innistrad onwards. I don't actually know the facts to know this. Like, I don't know the hard numbers to this. I just know based on attending stuff. Like, that's when I started to care more. Attendance has just skyrocketed from there, and like it goes up and down. You have some shit sets, you have like your Dragon's Mazes, and you have your gate crashes. But
the first box I ever bought too, I was like,
oh, I feel so bad for you. You got dicked so hard.
Well, I got 2 Voice of Resurgences, so who's laughing now?
All right, that's fine.
Paid for the box.
But like, I don't know. It goes up and down, and like obviously they know where their duds are, but I think this is like just a big lull in dud for them, that they just they'll figure it out eventually. It's just, I mean, the people that'll stick through it will be happy in the long run. It's just, they'll probably lose a lot of people.
And you were someone that was kind of, I don't want to say dipping your toe, because you did quite a bit of Magic finance videos, but what do you think kind of the state and the future is for that? You know, we kind of grazed over it with, like you said, you got out like a bandit probably at the right time, but do you think it is kind of ebbing and flowing, and it will kind of spike back up, or you think it's just reprint city at this point?
So looking at the way that it was going so far, I wouldn't, if somebody asked me like if I would concretely just get back in and invest in it, if I had like all the money to spare and realistically I wanted to like keep a return on it, I wouldn't feel financially sound like throwing money into it. Like, looking at the reprints and like the pattern of it, especially like Eternal Masters, like Modern Masters 17, it doesn't really give a whole lot of assurance in things. But they also have like some weird kind of like leaky foresight into what's going on. So one of the big things is they, for some reason, aren't very good at hiding stuff whenever they're testing it. Like, and the biggest thing was Bloodbraid. I knew that Bloodbraid was going to get reprinted for a very long time, or not reprinted, but you know what I mean, like unbanned.
Sure.
I knew that this was going to happen because another one of my friends, and I think he got it from like Reddit or something, there was something in the patchwork, and I could pull up my TCG player. I bought like hundreds of them. I literally bought like I think it was like every Bloodbraid that was under like $2 condition bearing off of TCG player when I saw this. And unfortunately, I didn't hold on to them like this whole time. I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know what the price point of them is right now, but I'm sure I would have made clean away. They worked into the MTGO patchwork that the card was legal, and they were testing it like on that interface. So it was like public knowledge, like public domain knowledge, that they were like already in the works of like unbanning this. And I literally don't even remember like what media source it surfaced on, but somebody reshared it to me like on Facebook, and I was like, this isn't normal. Like, this isn't what this should be. So I just went in. I was like, I'll buy like a couple hundred copies of Bloodbraid. Like, this is fine. And inadvertently, like, I kind of made the price go up a little bit by like $1 or something. So it was like, it's clean for like a flip if you just want to like stock inventory on them regardless. But they have these weird blunders where they'll be working on something and it just kind of like, wow, oops, it just kind of slipped out and whatever. And even with spoilers, I think they had that problem in the past where like something leaks out and then they're just like, well, I guess you have it now. Like, whatever.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and especially the Pascal. I think that they locked up kind of the last, I don't know, 2 sets or something. But I think the last one that had that huge blunder was Ixalan, where I think it was like 75% of the set was spoiled, and it's just like that happens so often. And it was, yeah, you're right. It was just like it happened so frequently, and it was all these probably internal leaks. And now there's, and I won't get too much into it because you just hear it ad nauseum at this point, where it's just like now it's like the cardboard quality and this and that and the other thing. There's so much kind of egg on the face at this point. So, I want to be optimistic and see, it get better, but who knows at this point. But Jane Martin said he loved Gatecrash. I agree.
So awkwardly enough, to tell you exactly when I knew Bloodbraid, because this is just completely off point, but August 22nd, 2016 was when I was making these orders.
Damn.
Because I just pulled up my TCG player, because that's in bulk where I bought these from. That's how long this was like abundantly available to people for anybody that did research on it. But really interesting, really interesting small thing. Just I was curious. I wanted to know what the timeline was on it.
Sure.
I had to look it up.
No, that's fantastic, because it was just literally unbanned a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. It was crazy. Well, it's like I was like, oh yeah, finally. Like literally you had all the time in the world and it took you this long. Like basically 2 years for you guys to do this.
That's insane. All right. Well, my God. Any kind of upcoming projects that you could spoil for us, the audience?
I mean, if anything, I would be streaming pretty often, and that would all be at like a very random interval of time. But for anybody that doesn't follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Jarent Absolute, and I post like everything on there as far as like streaming goes, which again, it's super sporadic. But the Twitch handle is Absolute Flex, so it's more of a meme name than anything. It's a real goofy name, but like it was meant to be a meme in all. So we went
you
with
to
that.
go back to Ashman Cinejob, huh?
Oh no way, man! We can't have that going. Man, people gave me so much gripe about that name for the longest time.
It was a little hard to find. I won't lie.
Oh yeah. That was an inside joke in and of itself, because like I never thought that anything was going to happen, and eventually like I was like, well, we're gonna have to rebrand this. We're gonna have to change some stuff around, which it's funny looking back, but like I never expected things to like explode to any degree. So that's where the comfortableness was with just putting that in as a username and just like whatever, man. It's a meme. It's fine. It doesn't matter.
That's awesome, man. All right. Well, you got, this is the point where I ask where the good kids can find you, rather. And you kind of said, your Twitter handle and all that. So I just want to, man, thank you so much. Like I said, this was more for me than for you guys. Being able to talk to Nick. I mean, like I said, you were definitely pretty much one of the biggest inspirations, Kevin from Rogue Deck Builder, Mr. Orange, all that. But you were right up there, especially. I mean, please don't go look at my old deck text, because you're gonna want royalties. But I think I added music in the background. I think that was my, the difference. But besides that, yeah, thank you so much, Nick from Absolute NTG. Follow him on Twitch at Absolute Flex, playing some other TCGs. And you could find me on Twitter at OrzovDunn. You could find me on Facebook and Instagram at John Dunning. And until next time, Planeswalkers, I will catch you all in the multiverse.